was raised in Escalon and started his law enforcement career as a reserve police officer for the Modesto Police Department in 1989. While working as a reserve, he attended and graduated from CSU Stanislaus with a bachelor's degree. In 1992, he attended law school at Santa Clara University. While in law school, he joined the Santa Clara County Sheriff Department as a reserve and extra help deputy sheriff. After graduating from law school, he was hired as a full-time sworn police officer with the city of Pleasanton. He worked as a patrol officer, field training officer, detective, and SWAT team member. During his time in Pleasanton, he took and passed the bar exam and became an attorney in June of 1997. In 2005, he was hired as a deputy district attorney for Stanislaus County. At the district attorney's office, he held assignments as the rural crime prosecutor, major narcotic vendor prosecutor, and gang homicide prosecutor. In 2019, he was promoted to Chief Deputy District Attorney, where he continued to carry a caseload of homicides while supervising attorneys. In October of 2021, he was promoted to Assistant District Attorney, the position he currently holds. From this position, he provides supports to not only the attorneys and the Chief Deputy District Attorney in the office, but clerical staff, managers, and supervisors as well. He also represents the office in their work and the justice partners and community organizations. In addition to his work in law enforcement, Jeff has served over 13 years as a council member for the city of Escalon. First elected in 2008, he served a 2-year term as mayor and was in his second term as mayor pro tem and 4th term on the council when he stepped down in December to run for district attorney. Jeff has been married to his wife Irene for 29 years. She has been a volleyball coach for 27 years and has volunteered her time with youth programs, the Escalon Recreation Commission, recreation-related nonprofit organizations, and the Every 15-Minute Drunk Driver Awareness Program. They have one daughter, Taylor, who just finished her master's degree and is working full-time. Jeff is blessed with an incredible and supportive family. His experience has prepared him for the position of district attorney, and he has a broad base of support. He has received support from District Attorney Laugero and members of the office during and including the management team, clerical staff, investigators and attorneys, law enforcement officials, peace officer associations, elected officials, court staff, business leaders, community members, and defense and private attorneys. This diverse support reflects his ability to work effectively with a variety of groups. He has built relationships in the community that will make him an effective DA, and he feels an obligation to continue to serve the county. He also has served for over 16 years. He will continue to work to enhance public safety and address quality of life issues, common concerns shared by all. Welcome to the Modern Assyrian program on Assyrian Global Network. My name is Carmen Morat. I am so pleased and honored to have a very special guest on our program today, Jeff Laugero. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation to have this conversation with the Assyrian community. And I have to share this with you. It is such an honor to speak with you. As I reviewed your qualifications and your bio, you are so uniquely qualified to be our next district attorney, and you are unopposed, so you will be our district attorney.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, it's so important for our viewers. Our platform is civic engagement, and we want to make sure that all of our viewers, not just the Assyrian community, but all who watch us on satellite television and social media platforms, to get to know the candidates a little bit better, to become informed voters, and of course, know all that they need to know about who they are voting for. So that's what we're going to do today. And I would like to begin, Jeff, by asking you, What has prompted you to be in this line of work and to be, which you will be, our next district attorney in Stanislaus County?
Well, I started in law enforcement back in 1989 as a reserve police officer with the city of Modesto. And uh, I don't really know that when I was younger that I saw myself being a police officer or moving into the criminal law field. But it kind of developed over time. The more I was exposed to the criminal justice system, I took classes in college, I worked as an officer, and I found that that really was my calling. I felt very comfortable with criminal law elements, proving cases, investigating cases, and it kind of naturally developed into a position as a detective. As a police officer, I was ultimately a detective. And as a detective, we handle cases, we do investigations, we want to make sure that we're protecting people's rights. So, as uh, my time as a police officer led me to believe that this is really where I belonged, working in the criminal law and criminal justice field. I truly think that's become my calling based on my experience and how I've gotten to this point in my career. I believe, and the law requires that prosecutors have the highest ethical obligation of any attorney in the state of California, and I take that obligation seriously. And I think that's important because we have so much discretion, we have so much authority that we have to exercise it judiciously and fairly and make sure that we're doing the right thing at all times for every case.
Thank you for mentioning the ethics obligation in that,
Mhm.
because I want to share with you that I've also interviewed your predecessor, I want to say, Birgit Flatiger. She
Mhm.
had made herself so accessible to all communities and to people who reached out to her. And what an advocate for victims' rights. So
Absolutely.
it's so important for people to hear from you and to know what your values are and what you stand for. As I mentioned, you've been a cop, you've been an attorney, you are an attorney, but talk to us about how being a council member and how a mayor has added to that special component of that administrative part into this awesome responsibility that you'll be having, even though you have been a deputy and a DA, assistant DA.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a different perspective, and it has allowed me to see the how a department operates, how a budget operates, how as a council member we were responsible for multiple departments, and each one of those departments is vying for valuable resources, limited resources, and you have to make some judgment decisions on how to spend the funds. So yeah, it kind of my feeling is that it has kind of uniquely prepared me to take over a department head role here for the county. As an elected department head, I'm going to be responsible for a budget. How are we going to utilize those resources? Where do they best serve the community? And I recognize that I work for the community as an elected official. I'm hired by the community, and it's my obligation to make sure that I'm meeting the community expectation and that we're doing the work that the community expects us to do. And having been an elected official and a mayor, that really helped me to develop that understanding that we are hired to do a job, and we need to make sure that we're doing that job to the satisfaction of the community that we're representing.
It's more of a platform where the public has access to you than being a prosecutor, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Prosecutors are generally kind of uh, operate like a need to know basis. We're not necessarily going to share a lot of information, usually because we can't. We don't want to jeopardize the case, jeopardize the prosecution, things like that. As an elected official on a city council or as a mayor, it's all about communication. So as a prosecutor, as the DA, it's really finding that balance about what information can we share, how transparent can we be. Clearly the more transparent we are, the better our communication is with the community, and the better off we are in getting support from the community for the work that we're doing.
Let's talk about the DA's office as a department. What is the mission statement of the Stanislaus County DA's office? And please share with us and with our viewers the different departments within the departments of the district attorney's office.
So ultimately, our goal is to seek, serve, and do justice. And I look at that as what we are ultimately trying to accomplish is on each and every case to do what is right for that case. How are we serving public safety, and how are we serving victims and protecting victims' rights? But at the same time, we also have the ethical obligation to make sure that we're bringing cases that we only ethically believe that we can prove each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. So we are in a unique position to where we are required to look at rights of victims, rights of defendants, and trying to make sure that we're balancing all of those to make sure that we're meeting our obligation. So it's quite a unique position that we hold as prosecutors. And I think it's important for your viewers and the community to understand what that obligation is and how important it is to us as prosecutors. We are a group of professionals. We're constantly trying to do the right thing with the case that meets our ethical obligation and meets the rights of those that we're prosecuting, as well as crime victims.
You mentioned crime victims. I do know that the Family Justice Center plays a huge role in their relationship and in the advocacy of what happens to victims of crime. And what role does your office play when it comes to, for example, victims of crime, whether it's domestic abuse, whether it's fraud, whether it's families of victims as well? I do know that Stanislaus County is very active in those services.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a victim services unit, and it is comprised of advocates that are really the first point of contact with a lot of victims and our office. They'll reach out to victims of crime. They will help them, guide them through the process, the criminal justice process. They'll help them connect with resources that may be available to them to make sure that whatever paperwork is being required can get done properly. A lot of times they'll connect them with the Family Justice Center and the resources available through the Family Justice Center to make sure that victims are being protected. Our job as prosecutors is to prosecute the defendants, those that are committing the crimes and victimizing people. But at the same time, there is a whole host of services and assistance that is available for crime victims. And we take it seriously. We're one of the few departments that really does continue to focus on victims' rights. Now, you see a lot of changes in the law, and it seems like the focus is moving away from victims' rights and towards the defendants. And we have to make sure that we're not forgetting the victims of crime and leaving them behind. And so we really work to through our victim advocates and our prosecutors to make sure that they are informed, they understand the process, they are part of the process, they have their opportunity to speak in court, to give impact statements, and to make sure that whatever resources are available that they may need, that they receive those.
Beautifully done. Let's talk about public safety and law enforcement. Of course, I know, and we all know, how the dynamic of that has changed since you became a reserve officer way back when.
Yes.
We all know life is different after the Floyd case. I was speaking to our sheriff, Jeff Dirksey, and discussing Project Resolve, having more community inclusion and having more of, bridging that gap that exists. So, being an elected official that you will be now, does that change where your stance is on the changes in law? For example, we are hearing a lot about ending the early release of violent felons and offenders. Where do you stand on that? What is your stance on that? Not just as a lead prosecutor, but also now as someone that you will have an impact where you can have a conversation with our assemblymen and state senators where state legislature is actually created and your office implements it.
Right, and that's the key factor there is we don't write the law, but we are the practitioners and we are the ones that have to implement it. And a lot of times, laws are written or laws are presented, and they don't fully recognize what unintended consequences there may be until they are actually put into practice. And I think you're seeing quite a bit of that right now, where some laws have been enacted. There have been some consequences that we're now seeing the effect of those consequences of those laws that have been enacted. Our job, and one of the roles that I have is I've been a member of the California District Attorneys Association, is to take a look at those laws, see how they're being implemented and what impact they're having on public safety, victims' rights, the concerns of prosecutors around the state, and trying to relay that information back to our lawmakers to make sure that they understand that, this law had a consequence that was maybe unintended, or this is what we're seeing in practice, and we may need to modify that law in order to make sure that we're still meeting our public safety obligation and taking care of victim rights.
Thank you for that clarification. As I interview different candidates running for whether it's state senate or assembly, as you know, there's a big election coming up. The primaries are June 7th. We talk about, or I always ask for our viewers to do their homework and to understand and to find out when they are voting for a proposition or there's a state legislature or that becomes a law, to find out if there's a proposition, find out who wrote it, who's financing it, and who will benefit from it, versus a state legislature or a bill that is prepared by, all its legislative aides, for example, who will fund it if it has a sundown. How do you get involved in that, or have you been involved in that to find out or give direction to our lawmakers that, Prop 47, for example, a lot of discussion with that. Right now, what we're seeing on the news every day, Jeff, about smash and grab, for example, less accountability and legal consequences. What is your stance on that? Do you advocate for these changes in the laws, or your office stays away from that?
Well, first of all, great advice to your viewers, to be informed voters, to make sure that they understand all the consequences that they can identify, if they are going to vote for a proposition, who wrote it, who's funding it. That's all great advice, because that does kind of tell you what the potential is for that proposition and what the consequences may be. Our office, as an elected DA, certainly we have, like I said, the California District Attorneys Association. That is one of our primary outlets to make sure that we're communicating with our lawmakers. As an elected DA, I would have access to our assembly members, our local lawmakers, and I would be able to have conversations with them. Sometimes they'll reach out to us and have questions about the criminal justice system. So they're kind of going to the source. We are, like I said, the practitioners. We're the ones that are actually, in the courtroom, and we're having to deal with the laws as they're written. I have in the past, when a proposition was being debated, I've been asked to come in and be part of a panel and give our perspective as a prosecutor, as somebody that is dealing with the law or looking at that law and recognizing that there may be some real issues with that law, either in implementation or enforcement. So I think it's important that we are a resource, whether it's for the lawmakers, the community, constituents, anybody that may have questions about a potential law that may be enacted.
It can get so Jeff, for people with legal terminology or, usually people say, we don't want to deal with this unless we have to, right? When we talk about, for example, with our sheriff, he says, by the time people come in contact with me or deputies, it's not good, whether they're being arrested or they're a victim. So
Right.
it,
Right.
it's, it's absolutely true.
Mhm.
But fortunately or unfortunately, we need to be informed about these things so we can make informed decisions and have informed opinions, whether
Yes.
we cast our vote or ballot or get to know you. You are known as a great communicator and effective communicator. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what do you want our youth to know about what the district attorney's office does? I know that there are mentorship, there is, for example, internships. What is your message for our youth in Stanislaus County?
I think it's not just for the youth, but I think there's a narrative. There's been a narrative out there for the last couple of years about law enforcement generally, prosecutors, police officers, and I think it's important that they understand that what our role is in the community. That we really are focused on public safety, and we're not just an organization designed to punish people. The criminal justice system has a number of consequences. And I think the right way to look at it is there's consequences for actions. Um, there are consequences that run the gamut. They can be diversion all the way up to life in prison. So they can be very severe from a punishment standpoint, but there's also rehabilitation and there's deterrence factors that come along with criminal law as well. So I think we need to do a better job of communicating with our young people in the community to make sure that they recognize that what our role is and what we can do to make a safe environment and to make their community, to make their home life, to make it safe, make it conducive to a good education, and so they don't have to worry about crime. And I think we just need to do a better job at communicating that to make sure that there's just not this one-sided narrative out there, that they can put a face to our office. Internships are great. We've had high school students come in over the summer to
Mhm.
do some internships. We've got college interns right now. So we're really trying to broaden that that opportunity for a lot of the young people in the community. Once they see the people that are in the office and they see the function of the office, they start to recognize that we are not just in the business of punishment. We're actually here focused on public safety and trying to make the community a safer place for them to go about their business.
Fantastic. And I'm a great advocate and I work with behavior health recovery services. So prevention and early intervention is something that I believe is so important as a component to keep our young people aware, to make sure that they know that there is consequences in life. And unfortunately, sometimes personal life or family doesn't provide that. Not every family is an ideal family, but to have mentorship, to have, for example, they look up to someone like you, someone who started as a reserve and went to law school and was a SWAT team member, and of course the list goes on and on, and to be an elected official. So you check all the boxes, and for someone to know that they can follow in your footsteps and perhaps be in the office and see other people that are on their way up. I think that is so important to provide mentorship, Jeff, and you will be definitely doing that as our DA.
Thank you. Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's I had some wonderful mentors in my life. That really, whether they keep you on the right path or they give you some good advice on how to move forward and how to achieve your goals, all that is critical. A lot of our prosecutors are involved in the mock trial program. I've did that for many years, where we engage with high school students. We give them an opportunity to look at what our work involves and how to present a case, make an argument in a courtroom setting. So I think those are all great opportunities to try and encourage kids, young people, teenagers to kind of start looking at, hey, what else is out there? What opportunities do I have? And how do I take advantage of them and achieve the goals that I've set for myself?
Beautiful. Jeff, thank you for sharing all of what you believe and your values are. But in closing, share with us what your vision is as the DA for Stanislaus County, and where do you see our district attorney's office going, and what do you want to achieve to be known for?
So, there's really three challenges that I see, and we've touched on them a little bit. There's always a recruitment and a retention issue. So I want to make sure that we have good people applying and we retain good people in our office. And that's not just at the attorney level. This office functions with attorneys, but we also have a support staff of clerical staff, DA investigators, paralegals, victim advocates. Every one of those units is critical to the proper functioning and meeting the goal and executing the mission of our office. So we don't want to neglect any of those units within the office. So we're constantly looking to bring on good people and retain those people. And it's a bit of a challenge right now. The workforce has changed, the work environment has changed, and we just have to continue to make sure that we're bringing on good people. And locals have been some of our best pickups as far as bringing people on board, people that are from the area that understand this county and this community. You usually have been excellent hires for our office. So I want to make sure that we have the proper staffing, for the office. The narrative that's out there, I think it's starting to change. I think people are really seeing that there is a role that prosecutors or law enforcement generally play to make sure that we have a safe community and that we are trying to do the right thing all the time with every case. So we just have to continue to show people our professionalism, our high ethical standards, and try and make sure that the community has confidence in us because of the work that they're seeing us do. Lastly, the change in the law that we touched on, I think you're going to see some of those changes start to roll back. You talked about the organized retail theft. The consequences are going to change. I think they're going to start to look at the dollar amount, the threshold, instead of $950, roll it back to something more like maybe $400. I think you'll see changes like that now that they've seen what these consequences are, and maybe have gone a little too far with some of the changes. You might see a rollback on that. So we're going to, we'll continue to advocate for our positions and make sure that our lawmakers understand exactly the consequences of some of the decisions that have been made, laws that have been enacted, and see if we can work with them to try and make sure that there's a good balance, to make sure that there's a deterrence factor, that there's rehabilitation, and when necessary, there's punishment.
Very nice. I think that has been that and the early release of violent offenders has been on a lot of candidates' minds, and people are concerned. We see it. It's all over the news. We read about it. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time to talk to you more about what you think is trending in Stanislaus County. And this was your vision. This is what you want to work on. I would like to congratulate you first because you are unopposed. So you will be our district attorney. Thank you so much for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to have this time with us. I think our viewers will get to know you a little bit more, and I'm hoping we can have other opportunities to have interviews, perhaps in person, and to talk about different trending issues in Stanislaus County.
That'd be great. I look forward to it, and I appreciate the time and having the opportunity to talk to you and your viewers. And I'm available and easy to get a hold of if there's questions or concerns, or if you want to have me back for further conversation. I'd love to do it.
I am looking forward to it. Thank you for being accessible, and we wish you the best with your leadership and your staff, and the best of luck with the new court coming in. I know we have some exciting news in Modesto about that, and definitely that will make an impact with your work as well. Thank you again for joining us today. My name is Carmen Morat, and we will see you on the next Modern Assyrian on AGN.